Since the beginning of time, man have tried to excuse our wrongdoings and our actions to avoid our personal responsibility. In the beginning, man used his mental capabilities to generate the first excuse. He said, the woman you gave me, she gave me to eat of the fruit. And then the woman turned to the serpent and said, well, the serpent deceived me. The situation hasn't changed much since then. Man has continued an endless search for a subtle, convincing, sophisticated way that could set us free from our moral and our spiritual responsibility. And many today have puffed themselves up with pride and set God up as the initiator or the instigator or the promoter of the fall of man in the garden. The truth is, if God is accused of our corrupt actions, then we become free from our responsibility to God. And this freedom is what many want. But basically, these people don't want to retain God in their lives. In their effort to find some sort of peace in their actions and that accuse their conscience, they have involved themselves in a deliberate search for a kind of intrinsic evil in the divine nature of God. On the other hand, there are those who do believe in God, and they find it difficult to understand or even explain why God allows some things to happen to his creatures without supernaturally intervening, and why it even appears that sometimes God himself influences things negatively and it brings misfortune down on us. So the question is bound to pop up. Why did God create the tree of knowledge of good and evil? This is something that has blocked many from believing in the creator, the creation of this specific tree. For many people, the question is unanswerable. And why did God create this tree? Since they can't settle on the idea of a benevolent God will create a tree that resulted in man's fall. This can be interpreted as if God created evil. Assuming that this tree was evil is the main error in wanting or not wanting to understand God's ways. In Genesis 1, it tells us that everything that he made was good. It even says it was very good. Although the name of the tree of good and evil hints at something negative because it has the word evil in it, the fact is that this tree was not a generator of evil. The tree itself did not contain good and evil, but it was the knowledge of good and evil. These are two very different things. The word knowledge used here is discernment or distinction. Basically, the enlargement of your mind to distinguish between good and evil. As in the case with the Bible, it gives us the knowledge of the good that we need to do and the evil that we need to avoid without necessarily inducing us to do evil. This tree contained this knowledge. But if this tree didn't have an evil nature, then what made it not good to eat? Well, tune in for part 2. You don't want to miss it. We'll get down to the nitty gritty. Part 2. So what made this tree not good to eat? It was God's command and prohibition. You may ask, why did God tell them not to eat of the tree? Couldn't he have just not made the tree altogether? And this would basically guarantee eternal happiness? People often complain and say that God set them up. God set Adam and Eve up. However, God gave them a choice. Without free will, Adam and Eve would have just been mere puppets. True love always requires choice, and God gave Adam and Eve a choice to trust and to love him. And the only way to give this choice was to command something that was not allowed. God's love was demonstrated in that he gave us humans the right to choose, to have that free will. Can you conceive a loving God that designed intelligent people like us to love him slavishly, programmed to serve him? No, he gave us free will. The truth of the matter is that love requires free will, and free will, the possibility to choose whether you want to serve or not. In order for man to have a choice, that command was necessary. Having that command in place paved the way for the possibility of freely choosing to either obey God or disobey. So why did God give us the tree? Because he wanted us to enjoy free will and to choose to do his will. We all have a choice. Choose this day who you will serve.